Welcome to Building Brevard. This is PJ McLaughlin, and this is episode 2, and we are here with Chelsea Anderson. Welcome, Chelsea.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And so this podcast is focused on, of course, building through real estate, as well as through the community and youth. And funny enough, we were talking, your name and your project came up multiple times, like for me in the same week. And I was like, okay, this is a perfect way to get you on and talk about your new project in Satellite Beach.
Yes, thank you. I know we're very excited about it.
So for somebody who might not know, tell them about the project, where you guys are in the process.
Certainly. We're in the pre-construction phase right now. So as of now, we're taking reservations. We're hoping to move to contract in December.
Okay.
Time frame with a construction in early 2024.
Okay.
Commencement of construction.
And so this is A1A and
Shearwater.
Yes.
Right across from Hightower.
Right across. Everybody knows Hightower, right?
Yes.
So this will be 3 condo buildings. And tell us a little bit about how you got started in the project. Let's start at the very beginning.
So I've been watching it for a while, just like yourself. My boyfriend, he works for a production builder, and so we were aware of the project coming up for a while. And so as soon as I saw that...
So he was working for Miranda then?
He was, yes.
Okay.
But he was working in Palm Bay area.
Right. But that's been exciting. The view. We have 4 or 5 clients that 2 that have moved in. I think we have 3 more that are in the process of building.
It's such a beautiful community.
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been basically watching it. So as soon as I saw that there was some movement happening, I immediately reached out and asked for a sales position there.
Okay. So wait a minute. So who did you reach out to?
My sales manager, actually, Joey Lopez. He's been working with the Adamark crew for a while on multiple different projects, I want to say, for about 15 years.
Okay. So Builder has been around that was actually one of my questions, been around for 15 years. Where's another project? Like if I was interested, right? Like I'm not going to buy a condo these days without doing some checking to see who the developer, who the builder is, what other projects.
Of course, they have had multiple projects, a lot in Miami, in Vegas, in the Bahamas, and I think they're working on some stuff in California right now. One Bell Harbor down south. We are a sales and marketing group, and so they've worked on developments. They do different things as sales. They do redevelopment and new development type of things.
Okay, so this is going to be the 3 units that are on A1A. You're going to have oceanfront because that beach there is all protected, right? Nothing will ever be built there in the way. I had a very interesting question. Like, at what point can you see complete ocean views? Like, at what floor?
So our residences start on the 3rd floor.
Right.
So you can see ocean.
So you're guaranteed ocean view.
From the 3rd floor, yes. Right. But, of course, the higher you get, the more sand you see. Because from the 3rd floor, you're definitely seeing preserve and then blue. Right. And from about the 5th floor, you're seeing preserve, sand, and blue. Right. And then we have residents up through the 9th floor.
Okay. So really 12-story building.
Well, it's going to be technically 9 with residences from the 3rd to 9th floor.
Got it.
And then the pool in our fitness center is going to be on the rooftop.
Okay. So that's a big question I've heard this like numerous times from numerous people. How many pools? Where are they going to be?
Yes. The pool. So each building is going to have its own pool on the rooftop.
Wow.
So 3 pools all on the rooftop.
Has that ever been done in Brevard County?
No.
Right. So
that's the exciting part.
Yeah. The first person I heard it from, like, there's going to be a rooftop pool. I'm like, there's 1 pool. So like, if you live over here, you got to go down, right? Like 3 pools all on rooftop. And you're going to be able to see from Indian River to oceanfront on both of those. It's pretty spectacular.
The pool deck should be very exciting because there's going to be a summer kitchen and cabanas, and we're going to have a glass line. So it's going to be infinity, so you can see out to the ocean from in the pool.
Wow.
Very beautiful.
I was trying to do a calculation in my head, knowing on residential side what an infinity pool might cost. On the 9th floor,
right?
You're six figures just in the edge of that pool, right?
Yes.
Like crazy. So tell us more about the buildings. What do the floor plans consist of?
Sure. We have floor plans that range anywhere from 2.5 bath, all the way up to 5 bedroom plus a den and a theater room. That would be one of our penthouses. They range from just over 2,500 square foot all the way up to a little over 5,500 square foot, plus the balconies,
of course,
of each one, which kind of vary from residence to residence, depending on if it's an end unit. Some of our units kind of jut out a little bit more and have a little bit longer of a balcony. But they're going to be quite large. They're walk through from west. So you walk in on the west side, flow through all the way to the east side. Right. So every single residence will have the ocean view.
Awesome.
Yes. And
I know big question for a lot of our consumers, what are the ceiling heights going to be?
Oh, yeah. So we're going to have ceiling heights 9.4 for levels 3 through 7. The 8th floor, which is our lower penthouse level, is going to be 9.8, and then the penthouse level is going to be 11 foot.
Wow. 9.4, though, for most of the building.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then what about finishes? Okay. That's always the...
We're still in the process of finalizing them. We're using a company called Mandy Casa. They have a flagship showroom in Hollywood, in LA, but they are doing all of our finishing packages. So even from 3rd floor up, it's going to be quite high end, like nothing the area's seen before. Their product is manufactured in Italy.
Wow.
And then brought over here. They have a specific installation team. So at that point, our construction team would bow out and they would come in and do the finishes.
Wow.
They're doing our kitchens, bath, and closet. It's going to be very contemporary, streamlined, different than what we typically see in this area.
Okay. Fantastic. So What I'm hearing is a very high end and something that will be special in Brevard.
Very special.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ocean, river, literally like rooftop pool, gym. What else should somebody know about all the amenities?
We're going to have a very epic club room that is going to be on the 3rd floor of each building. There's going to be a billiards area, a kids area, a business center, a large bar area and lounge that also is going to have the balcony for ocean views as well.
Okay, so somewhere where somebody can host a party or get together or something like that and not have somebody in their space.
Oh, yeah.
Which is fantastic.
And it's going to be upwards of a little over 3,000 square foot. So it's going to be quite large area as well.
Got to get a podcast studio in there. Something like that, right? So where could somebody find more information right now?
From me.
Okay. Where do they find you?
Yeah, so we don't have an official sales center yet. That is our first order of business when we begin construction. Along with our decel lane off of A1A. Right now, we are located in 1110 Highway A1A. It's a shared office building, just in between Jackson and where Satellite High School is and Nip-on-Tai. So we're working temporarily out of there, but we're quite nomadic. So I don't sit in that office. Right. I work all over the place, but certainly can meet anybody there, if they needed to.
So when do you guys plan on having something like more on site for somebody?
We're hoping in the early 2024. Once they start construction, I know that their plan is to make our sales center pretty quickly. It's going to be... If you enter from the view, there's a little road close to their pool called Dragon Place. We're going to connect that all the way to A1A and have a decel lane coming off of A1A.
Okay.
And our sales center will be located right there.
Okay.
It's going to have some of our finishes in there, and we'll have an audio visual room where we can show people,
high tech,
yes.
able to go into their floor and
yes.
and check out the view.
Of course.
Not to be confused with the view, but that's behind it.
Right. Yeah. So it should be very cool, and I'm excited to be able to see the finishes as well.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else you would add about the project?
I mean, there's a ton of information. I don't want to overload, with the granular details. But certainly, we're going to be building a walkover, which is very cool.
Right.
On the south side of our tract of land, there's going to be an elevated covered walkover to Hightower Beach so that our residents will have access.
Fantastic.
To the beach, as well as the public.
Okay.
There's going to be an elevator and stair access to get up and over.
Awesome.
So you don't have to sit at the crosswalk unless you want to.
Right.
Yes.
So might be something that you can't answer on camera, but what is going on with the hotel on the corner?
Yes. And you're right. I can give you some answer, but I don't know anything about it enough.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I know that there was a hotel slated in there, and then COVID kind of threw all of that.
There is going to be a hotel there.
Right.
I just don't know who the investor is that's going to be doing that. I do know it's boutique, that it's going to try and flow through to kind of be an extension of our amenities. Mm-hmm. And that I do know that they're approved for 222 keys.
Wow.
But I don't know that they're going to use all that if they expand restaurant space or whatnot. But they are approved for 222 keys, and there will be a hotel there. I just don't know who it is yet.
Right.
But it is going to be boutique, upscale.
Brevard County needs some nice, that is for over a decade that has been can we please get something that is nice for incoming, right? I work a lot with a few doctor groups, and so they're like, okay, well, we're going to stay at the DoubleTree,
Yes.
which is nice. And if we're trying to recruit somebody to our beautiful county to come here and work here and live here, it would help to have a nice hotel.
I agree.
Or a property like yours where
yes.
they can actually have something that might be more like what they're used to. Right?
Yes. And that's the biggest need that we've been finding is people from out of area that are looking for the upscale, but they still want a quieter town. They don't want to be
right. They don't want traffic.
Yes.
They don't want crime.
Right.
Some of those things.
They want to be in a quieter town. So they like that we're kind of maintaining the aesthetic. I know that we've been working, the developer's been working very closely with Satellite Beach to maintain the preserve area and keep our beach lifestyle intact, but bring an elevated aesthetic to the project.
Fantastic. So if I was somebody that was interested in the project or interested in doing a reservation at this point, what does that look like?
So when we move to reservation, for most of the residences, it would be a $50,000 deposit. Mm-hmm. And then, which is fully refundable. Then when we move to contract, we would shore up to 30%.
Okay.
And then, of course, with the Florida law, there's a 15-day rescission period after contract to review documents and whatnot. Right. And that would be it until closing.
But if I was somebody that was interested today, I could come find you.
Yes, call me.
Call you and say, I would like to at least learn about, are you selling all three buildings or were you doing them one at a time?
So right now we're just doing building one. Okay. And then we're going to stagger 2 and 3. Okay. So in the middle of 1, we're going to start 2, and then
is the developer's plan to do finish 1 and be staggering 2 and 3, or are they going in and doing all 3?
No, I think we're going to stagger and start 2 while we're doing 1.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. When do they anticipate? I know this is the chart would be massive, right? To think, when do they anticipate it being fully finished, ready to go?
They are telling me an 18-month completion from start of construction.
For building 1?
For building 1.
Okay. That's really fast.
That is really fast. I would definitely err on the side of caution and say 2026 timeframe.
Right.
Delays and whatnot, how it always goes.
It always I've been in construction my whole life. It's like,
yes.
It is one of those things that never, ever finishes on time, it seems like, for one reason or another.
Right. And I know that there is quite like some supply chain issues with windows.
Supply chain, doors. Weather, hurricane, labor.
Yes. And we are quite lucky in the fact that DFI is one of our partners in the project. So we do have that resource. We're able to offer that to our clients. Instead of having to subcontract work, we're going to have their crew specifically on the project.
Okay.
So we're going to be able to cut costs and then offer that to our clients as well.
So if I'm somebody, because I know the number one option for everybody is an end unit, right? You have one building, 2 end units, floors 3 through 7, if I'm hearing correctly, right? So you have, if you want an end unit and want to move in relatively early, you have like 8 options.
Yeah, well, we have some reservations already, but yes, there technically is, and then the lower penthouse end units as well. They are the same residences as 3 through 7, but they will offer the same finishes as our penthouses.
Right, so a little bit higher finishes and a little bit higher ceiling.
Yes.
And comes with a little bit higher price.
Right, yes.
But if I'm just like, okay, I want to get into...
But yes, 3 through 7, yes, our A, and that would be our G would be on the north side, A would be on the south side.
Okay, and you already have, can you tell us how many reservations you have? Or
I could...
Next question. If you're interested at all, you should move quickly, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. We have a lot going in the works. We already have some reservations set. We have quite a bit in the works right now. So, yes.
Fantastic.
Move quickly. I mean, it's a good market right now, especially for people that want to get in early because we are in pre-construction pricing. So really that's the urgency behind it right now, is just maintaining this pricing because it's definitely going to increase, especially for building 2 and 3 moving forward.
Fantastic.
Yes.
All right, to switch gears a little bit, because I wanted to talk, right, like I think most people are interested in that, and yet you were here, and you mentioned that you reached out to the developer, but like, help me connect those dots, right? Like, I know that you were in general real estate as well.
Yes.
And so how do you go from general real estate to like new construction, amazing project, and fill in the in between there for us?
Sure. Ed, my boyfriend, he had been working for a builder, and while I was in general real estate, I was working for him as his business manager. He had such a large backlog that I was basically keeping track of construction, calling on permits, doing all the business side, essentially minus sales from what he was doing in the office.
All the non-glamour stuff. He was out shaking hands and kissing babies,
right.
And you were making him look good.
Yeah, that's right. Doing all of his marketing, like everything. I was doing everything. So, I quite like the development side of it. So I was looking forward to the project already, being that I grew up in this area and seeing what the land was. And then when it got wiped, South Patrick housing when I grew up here.
Right.
So,
I mean, if somebody just recently in the last 5 years moved here, they might not know at all what the dirt actually was.
I mean, I remember in high school going to friends' houses there. And then after it was being evacuated somewhat, then they had, haunted house Halloween there. So
it's fitting. When I moved here, it was a pretty spooky place.
Yeah. So, but it was, I went to Satellite High School, so I've just seen the land go from what it was to nothing. And now to hear, when I heard about the development, I was very excited.
Yeah. It'd be fun to have like a 50-year aerial.
No kidding.
Especially moving into 25 and 26. So you had some knowledge of new construction.
Yes. So then I just happened to be always looking for development work or marketing type work. And I happened to see an opening that was not, it did not have anything to do with this development, but I was like, you know what, let me just see what this is about, because it was quite vague, the listing for the job posting, and it turned out it was them, and I was like, yes, please.
So you randomly apply to something that's like Area 51 stuff.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
New
development.
We can tell you what it is if you sign this NDA.
New development. So I was kind of itching because he was in a transitional place, moving his position in Palm Bay as well. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to full force into general real estate, but I also missed the development side. So I was kind of looking myself.
So did you have any new construction prior to that?
No, just working with him.
Okay. So we have a lot of mutual friends in real estate, right? Like it's always very interesting to me that in general real estate, most agents just think, oh, I can just flip a switch and sell new construction, right? Like, I've sold a house before. Why can't I sell new construction? What would you say to that?
I mean, to me, it's quite different. The business model, I would say, is quite different. Working with him and all of his sales training that he got, I feel like I was lucky enough to be able to absorb a little bit of that from several of his companies that he worked with. To me, general real estate to me is, in my opinion, it's a little bit tougher because you are working with somebody from the beginning where they have no clue if they even want to be in the area, to where, you know, you're kind of funneling them to try and find exactly what they want and need.
Right.
In new construction, I find that it's the same thing, but you kind of have the volume, I would say. So for me, I think you're more building relationship with realtors in new development than you are with clients. Even though you have your clients and you're working with clients, you definitely want to build relationship with realtors, because that is what our business is based off of.
Right.
You know, taking care of realtors and working together in a partnership to guide the clients.
Yeah, what I found, you know, I worked for a local satellite beach builder, DePrima Homes, and he said, I want you to be my sales guy. And I was like, with all due respect, like, I'll be your salesperson, but we're going to run a team, because I've come into your models on Saturdays and Sundays where there's only one salesperson and there's 3 families, right?
Yes.
And you know, having that experience and then being able to train several different agents into that, right, where they came from general real estate. I was like, you have to understand, we do an open house 7 days a week.
Yes.
For 8 hours a day.
Yes.
Like, you're just not on Saturday from 12 to 2.
Right.
Like, we worked, I think we had, my team, it drove them, I think we had 6 or 7, depending on the year, days off. Right?
Right.
So you were on for 355 days.
Yes.
Open house, 8 hours a day. And it was like, oh, well, I don't want to work Black Friday. Some of my best business came on Black Friday. Oh, yeah. Right? Like,
yes.
Okay, you don't want to work Mother's Day, Father's Day, Easter, like the list went on and on that nobody wanted to work. And I was like, I'll work those days, because if they're coming in to see you on those days, they're serious.
Well, that's their days off as well. So you got to be there.
Right.
Yes.
Like, I joke that I literally spent, I did a calculation, I spent more time at the model than I did at my house, right? Like,
right.
Because I was there 7 days a week, sometimes 10 hours a day, 11 hours a day, like whatever it takes to get it done. I think it also comes with a lot of research and development. Like, it, right, as agents, we're really good at, like, okay, give me a neighborhood, I can tell you everything based on comps in the neighborhood and all this sort of stuff. When you get into new construction, you got to know everything that's in that neighborhood and then your surrounding areas.
Yes.
And I would beg to say, like, if you're selling condo product on the ocean, you might have to know what's going on in Vero, and you might have to know what's going on in Jacksonville, right?
Yes.
Like, if I want to be on the ocean, I'm going to spend $1 million. It's these rings, right? Like, I had a friend that worked for Costco, and he was like, Costco's coming to Brevard. We're just waiting until the population ring right? You have like this is a tangent, but we had the Walmart and the Super Target.
Oh, yeah.
And Costco's like, well, our population ring just has to get big enough. So Pineda, like, I knew that a decade ago. Like, they're coming. It just, you got to build it.
Yep.
So new construction is vastly different.
Well, you definitely have to know the competition. That's without a doubt.
That's a given, right?
And I think you just have to almost maybe be more of an analytical, be able to keep your ducks in a row and stay driven, essentially. Like you said, there isn't an off. You have to constantly be in the know of everything. And also build relationships with your competition so that you can,
right,
you know what each other's offering. Because not everybody that comes in wants your product.
Right.
So knowing how to help too, I mean, ultimately.
It's vastly different, right?
Yes.
Like it. The other thing I was going to mention is like, you know, you see a lot of retail type jobs, right? Somebody walks into a retail location and your job is to sell them something. Hopefully the store has it, right? And then you get into like, I would say, right, like the Tiffany's or the Louis stores where your job really is to sell something they're coming in and spending a decent amount of money.
Yes.
When they come into a new construction, you're talking about a boatload of money compared to retail. And so you're constantly playing this game. Who's interested? Who's giving me a front, right? Like,
yes.
Oh, we're totally interested, Chelsea. Like, send us all the information. We'll fill out the reservation. They ghost you, right? And you spend an hour with them, or 2 or 4, right? Like,
right. Well,
it is this like Jedi mind trick, right? Like, I got really good as somebody was walking in from the door. Okay, who's the driver? Who's the one that's actually going to make the decision maker?
Yeah.
Right. Like, and then it was like, okay, for us, we were right off of Pineda 95. So I had to start with like, okay, do you know where you are? And they're like, no, we just got off the freeway and we saw your sign and we pulled over. I was like, okay, so we have to start with the area. Yes. We got to sell you on the area because I can sell you on the house all day long, but if you hate the area or it doesn't fit for your lifestyle, doesn't matter. Then it was the builder, then it's the community, right? We called it the ABCs.
Yes. Okay.
And you had this like, you had to be really, really good.
Yep.
And never judge a book by its cover.
100%.
You know, that's the funny part. I sold a house to a gentleman who walked out of a model because he was wearing like these neon Air Max shoes, neon jacket, full tattoos everywhere. And the salesperson said, oh, we have a smaller house that I can show you. And he was like, I can buy 2 of your models right now. Like, F you, I'm out of here, right?
Yes.
And walked into our model and bought a house, right? He was like, he was fueled enough to like, oh.
Just to spite.
Just to spite, right? All right, so to jump back into Lumena and really I had a few more thoughts, questions when it comes to price point. I don't think we discussed price point, so let's start there.
Okay. We have our lowest... Yes, we have a range starting from $995, $900, and it goes. Our highest price penthouse is $3.463,900.
That's a mouthful to remember all those numbers until it changes next week.
It changes, right? Of course, once we become a certain amount absorbed, the pricing is going to change.
Of course, as they always do.
Yes.
So always, I say in new construction, like get in early.
Yes.
And wait.
That's it.
There's so many people that are like, well, I want them to work out the kinks or this. Like they're get in early. The pricing is always the best.
Yes, and there is some people that are just like that, and so for them, maybe building one is not it. But the urgency for building one is the price point right now, because if you do get in early and wait, you get you're going to build more equity essentially.
What about parking? Because that was another question.
Oh, yes.
That is always big.
So our first 2 levels are going to be private access parking. Mm-hmm. The first floor of parking is going to be slightly subgrade, and then the second floor. Each parking spot will have a storage area. We're trying to get 2. For right now, I think the 1 bedrooms are going to have 1 parking space, or the 2 bedrooms will have 1 parking space. And then the rest of the residences will have 2 parking spaces. We're going to have EV charging stations in the enclosed garage area. And then the residents will have the option to install an EV charging station directly onto their parking space if they wish.
That's going to be huge.
Yes.
As we're looking into the future of EV consuming all auto. What about the really sticking point of short-term rentals.
Yes. We are in transition. In our HOA docs, we do have full flexibility. But we are working with the city.
Sits in Satellite Beach,
yes.
which is a big no-no.
Right. But we are working with them. I know the developer's working with them to get that granted. But also each building has its own HOA. So ultimately, the HOA will be able to decide if they want to set parameters on it, background checks, rental restrictions as far as time frames. That will ultimately be up to the HOA of each building. Yes, but in our docs, we're putting full flexibility.
Yeah, I know that if you're on the other side of A1A, it's kind of open, right? Like free range.
Yes.
And yet you guys are one block inside of Satellite Beach.
Know.
Well, and I would argue too, like if I'm buying $1 million condo, I'm not looking to rent this at a nightly rate where I'm going to compete with a hotel that's going to be on premise, right? Like,
correct.
If I'm renting my property, I want the best of the best occupying my property. I'm going to set the price there, right? And so it's naturally going to eliminate, like I travel a decent amount for work, and we try and stay at Airbnbs because they're fun, right? And we recently stayed at one that was fantastic, right? Like similar 9-story building, all the amenities. You couldn't hear anything.
Yes.
And the property was, we were shocked. We're like, this is beautiful. And we get to rent it for 4 days, right? Like, and I think they had a weekly restrictions, and then you could go in and do, okay, well, I'm only going to rent it 4. But that meant that it sat vacant for 3 days. Whoop-de-doo.
Right.
It gave them the ability to clean it, turn it,
of course,
and get it ready for the next one.
Yes.
So what would you say to somebody, I love everything about it, but I'm still, until you tell me if I can do a short-term rental, what would you say to that?
I would definitely, number one, say join the HOA board, so you can have a word in it. But also, like you said, with the hotel being there, most people that are kind of in and out are going to want that. But our product, I think, because of how high-end it is, it lends itself a lot to corporate rentals. That's what we've been seeing the most demand for, is corporate rentals on the month-to-month basis more so.
Right.
So just having the flexibility of that, because if I'm not mistaken, Satellite Beach is a 6-month minimum right now.
Yeah, and I just know from other friends and family in real estate that have tried to do Airbnbs in Satellite Beach, it's a $10,000 slap on the wrist. So nobody wants to really do that, right?
Yes, 100%. So,
it's just interesting too to think about how beautiful of a project this is going to develop into, right? Like,
yes.
I'm really excited to have something like this in Brevard County that is, as you were saying, like executive rentals. It has been such a need in Brevard County. Every year, without a doubt, I get somebody who calls me and say, PJ, the price is not the object for the monthly. I just want something that's nice, that is close to the beach, centrally located. And this would be something that would absolutely check all of those boxes for somebody like that.
I agree. Also, with the new Senate bill, with the structural, I think that puts us in a good spot. The structural engineering inspections that are having to be done.
Tell us more about that, because you are well-versed. I've been talking about this with a lot of clients, but I always love an insight on this.
So any building that's within 3 miles of coastline, and I think they're still hammering out whether or not they're going to consider an intercoastal or river coastline. But basically that's every condo on our barrier island, essentially.
Right.
So
it's, I don't want to know the number, but it's
yes.
We are long and skinny.
Yes.
So it is most of our county.
Anything that's within 3 miles of coastline that's 25 years or older, which also is most of our county, is subject to a structural engineering inspection to make sure that they hit certain guidelines set forth by the Senate bill, which is kind of their reaction to the Surfside collapse.
Yeah.
So
I completely understand what they're trying to do.
Yes.
And what they're trying to force some of these HOAs to keep into reserves.
Yes.
I understand it.
That's the biggest thing. And then after the 25-year inspection, you have to have it done every 10 years.
Right.
So I think where we are, it helps because we have the full 25 years of not having to.
Right. You won't have an inspection for 25 years.
Yes.
My 2 cents on it is pretty interesting because, if it's a complex that has hundreds of residents, makes sense. We have some friends that live in 6 or 8 or 12 unit. And if they have to have $1 million in reserves for structural components for their, it could bankrupt hundreds of thousands
100%.
of buildings and HOAs inside of Florida. And so I don't know. I love what they're trying to do, and I can appreciate, and it's typical government.
Yes.
We're going to go way over here and try and fix this problem versus hey, how about we, right? It reminds me of the septic moratorium, right?
Right.
We're going to mandate that everybody puts a new septic in of this date. Well, let's talk about the 50 and 100-year-old tanks that are really the cause of the problem, right?
100%.
Why didn't we actually solve the root of the problem? So, be very interesting how this continues to shake out in Florida.
Yes, I'm very interested to see. I feel like we're going to see a pretty large dump off of older condominiums.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, it can quickly create a fire sale.
Yes, and the part is that it has to be, the reserves and everything has to be released. So if they're not in the position now, they're going to see assessments.
And that's, I've personally lived through this where we owned a condo that the fire sprinkler system failed. So pipes were literally bursting in the walls. They it bankrupted the HOA, and in the HOA docs it says, right, you have a special assessment due within 30 days to the tune of $40,000, and then they hit us for the next one for another 90 days later. Well, if you didn't have $90,000 laying around,
exactly,
you sold, and if your unit was, I think at the time they were selling for $750. All of a sudden, in a year's time, they were selling for $500. People lost $250 in equity because of their neighbors who didn't have the funds.
Right.
And so I think because I've had personal experience of it, I think as this continues to roll out, it'll be very interesting how they morph this Senate bill, because you can't just create a collapse literally it'll collapse the condo market in Florida.
Yes, I agree.